Welcome to everyone again for the second day of our remote ISHMap event. Before introduce our presenters, I would like to remember you some guidelines. Mute your microphone, introduce yourself, use the chat for introducing yourself, prefer reactions to apply at the end of the talk, questions after the presentations, or during the presentations, chat me with questions that you have to the presenters, and technical questions sent to our secretaries. Today we are starting our plenary session with cartographies and community. Kate, Oscar, Sofia, and Carolina, our presenters today, are here because always academics and scholars should listen communities. I remember when I started to work with maps 5 years ago and started to visit many collections of maps in internet and in archives and libraries. I asked by myself, what can I do with maps to improve the life of the people? I think today I'm find some answers for this anguish. And if you have the same anguish, our event is proportional moment for we learn, for we find answer for this anguish with people like with the works of Katie, Oscar, Sofia, and Carolina. And I strongly believe that we find answers about cartography and how to improve the life of the communities if we go to some fields like the arts, like the neuroscience, or in initiatives that use maps to communicate and to diagnose social problems. So let me go to introduce our presenters of today. They have a very beautiful professional trajectory with social engagement. I have the pleasure to present Kate, Oscar, Melara, Kate Connell, Oscar Melara, and Sofia Vivanco, our first presenters. Kate Connell and Oscar Melara work at San Francisco, Southeast San Francisco since 1995, collaborating with libraries and transit systems. They create maps, games, books, and murals. They have created Moving Art House, a mobile cultural platform, Building the Art House, an exhibition at City College of San Francisco and ISHMap that's going on today. A ruling cultural hub for Southeast San Francisco. Melara and Connell work has been exhibited at the Havana Biennale in 2012 and has appeared in race poverty and in the environment and public art review. Connell worked for many years at the Galeria de la Raza, and Melara co-founded La Raza Silstream Center. Sofia Vivanco Airaghi, I hope the pronunciation is right, is a quadrilingual geographer, a dancer, and educator from San Francisco. She is the program manager at the Youth Art Exchange. Sofia holds a BA in geography from UC Berkeley with an emphasis in Latin American studies. And she worked at UC Berkeley Multicultural Community Center and as cartographer with the anti-eviction mapping projects, dislocation initiatives. Sofia has performed at ODC Theater, Cuba Caribe Festival, San Francisco Carnival, has exhibited work at Latinos in Architecture Perspectives exhibit. Wonderful. Carolina La Terza, our second presenter, graduated in architecture and urban planning at the University of São Paulo and has a postgraduate degree in urban management and public policies from the same institution. She has worked in the private sector at an urban design office, planning and designing bicycle mobility facilities around the country for small, medium, and large cities, and for the public sector, working for São Paulo City Hall, where she was responsible to co-develop the regional plans for the 32 districts in the city of São Paulo. Currently, she is a project assistant at Instituto Cidades Sustentáveis, where she supports many projects about public policies, land access, urban inequalities, climate change, and active mobility for our São Paulo network. Thanks so much for coming, and immediately I give the word to Kate, Oscar, and Sofia.
Hello and welcome to the plenary session this morning. We all three want to thank you, Jordana Dim, Denise Moura, ISHMap organizers, and the secretaries for this session, Patricia de Carvalho and Gabriel Chagas. And we're very much looking forward to hearing from our fellow panelists, you, Caro La Terza. Today, we'd like to pose this question. Can we build a cultural life in Southeast San Francisco? A collective cultural life. I'm Kate Connell.
I'm Oscar Melara.
I'm Sofia Vivanco Airaghi, and we are an intergenerational team of multidisciplinary artists working together to document, create,
21-foot Jayco,
and inspire cultural production in Southeast San Francisco. We represent, preserve, and nurture San Francisco working class culture in order to resist the erasure caused by aggressive gentrification. Southeast San Francisco is essential to the city as the home of its diversity in terms of culture, class, and age. This part of the city is home to workers who make the city run. San Francisco could not survive without them. We commission new work, create books, public art projects, exhibitions, mobile art carts, arts education curriculum, and tours by engaging with a participatory public and other artists. Our work is experiential and ephemeral. Some is sustained through material objects, documentation, and online presence. Both are ongoing and instrumental to the success of the works. We will describe how we, as artists living and working in Southeast San Francisco, use social practice art and participatory mapping to think through the question, can we build a collective cultural life in Southeast San Francisco? We propose that a collective cultural life can lead to a shared cultural identity. A shared cultural identity, which is intersectional in nature, frees us from the othering of our neighbors. It can lead to shared endeavors that benefit our region, such as combating food deserts, increasing voter participation, creating safe spaces, and reimagining the police. We propose the collectively created cultural map of Southeast San Francisco as one way to engage our neighbors in answering this question.
Southeast San Francisco constitutes 1/5 of the city, but it does not appear on tourist maps and is little known to even many San Franciscans. 4 neighborhoods comprise this region: the Excelsior District, the Portola District, Visitation Valley, and Bayview Hunters Point. It is a swath of 4 working-class neighborhoods whose only formal cultural center is the historic Bayview Opera House. Southeast San Francisco neighborhoods share a common history as a location of urban culture, first homes to many immigrants, and to Black workers from the South who moved north during World War II to work in the shipyards. These neighborhoods are some of the last homes to Black San Franciscans. All 4 neighborhoods now share similar demographics. High rates as compared to the rest of San Francisco of Asian and Asian American, Black, Latinx, Native, and working class white populations. A higher proportion of children and teens differentiate this region from other parts of the city, and the region is characterized by high rates of union membership and home ownership. And yet, Southeast San Francisco is one of the poorest regions of San Francisco, and with high rates of public housing and people who are unhoused. Why is Southeast San Francisco important? It is home to most of the city's working class population. It is a deeply racialized space cut off from the city by inadequate public transportation, and it is a victim of whiteness as a cultural force. It is naturally beautiful, yet industrial and polluted. It is never featured in promotional campaigns for the city, and visitors rarely see or know about it. Many white or middle-class residents never visit Southeast San Francisco, even after decades of living in the city. It is the center. In its center are beautiful open spaces, McLaren Park, Heron's Head and Bayview Park, and Candlestick Point, which are almost completely underutilized, although they are seeing more use during COVID times.
We have chosen a collaborative, interdisciplinary, cross-cultural, and intergenerational approach in order to be deeply inclusive and accurately representative. We invite all residents of Southeast San Francisco to identify sites, add artists, and forms of cultural expression from the region and all the things we haven't thought of, but that contribute to fully representing our cultural life. Some of you may have seen the movie The Last Black Man in San Francisco. It was filmed in this part of the city. Our objectives are many: to ensure that all feel invited to participate, not only those who regularly attend galleries and traditional cultural events, to build and sustain solidarity and resilience in the face of gentrification, to underscore and collectively articulate existing identities within the region, to propose a regional identification to intersect with other identities, and to reveal the beauty and variety of our region in order to amplify a sense of ownership. Our project is actively anti-racist and anti-gentrification. Representation is more than a matter of pride. It actually brings things into existence and records them for posterity. Two maps of San Francisco inequality both point to the Southeast as a marginalized part of the city. On the left, a 1939 planning map denotes green, best, blue, still desirable, yellow, definitely declining, red, hazardous. On the right, the map showing the geographic distribution of COVID-19 cases in San Francisco in 2020 confirms that the quality of life has not improved for the Southeast over the course of 80 years.
We combine two disciplines to think through the question of whether we create a collective cultural life in Southeast San Francisco: social practice art and participatory mapping. Unlike studio art, social practice art involves a collaboration between artists and the public. Often political in nature, it can be used to claim space and give visibility to under-recognized communities. Significantly, the interactive process and experiences are as much a part of the art as are the material or compositional outcomes of the processes. We're committed to the democratic nature of this practice, which requires grassroots outreach, collaboration, and experimentation. We are aligned with the Anti-Eviction Mapping Project's description of participatory mapping. Quote, "Maps are never neutral. They assert boundaries, place names, presences, and absences. We recognize the representational power of maps and strive to create ones that reveal a counter-history taking place at this moment. Our maps hold the stories of the longtime residents who hold decades of memory, including all of the old names. With these maps, we can make visible the invisible. We can say we are still here," unquote. We combine social practice art with participatory mapping because the strategies are both collaborative, utilize relational thinking, are self-defining, and characterized by shared agency. Both are visual strategies combined with community engagement. These are the disciplines we engage in each of our art practices.
We first proposed building the collective cultural life of Southeast San Francisco in 2015 with the project, The Moving Art House. Previously, our work was centered in our Southeast neighborhood, the Portola district, on working class culture in general. But in 2014, we joined the fight to preserve City College of San Francisco, the only free college in San Francisco open to all. City College has an enrollment of 60,000 students, many from the Southeast. Our focus changed and we adopted a regional approach. We began to commission work that reflects the experience of those who live in Southeast San Francisco. The Moving Art House introduced artists to each other and to the participatory public. To stage events, we collaborated with local organizations, including libraries, public green space, and a historic nightclub. The nightlife event was dedicated to the memory of the nightclub security guard, Alex Nieto, as also a City College student who was killed by the police. The event showcased music of 7 traditions, invited spontaneous contributions by participants. Building the Art House was a 6-month exhibition of Southeast San Francisco artists ages 17 to 80, working in poetry, video, visual arts, green space design, dance, and photography. It was the second second strategy for exploring the possibility of building a cultural life in Southeast San Francisco. In 2016, the exhibition was curated by Kate and artist Emma Svirtus and took place at City College of San Francisco. For the exhibition, Sofia and I contributed maps. Youth Art Exchange, the program that Sofia administers, was an exhibitor. The program encourages youth to cultivate the community they desire.
Trained in geography and cartography, I have worked on several mapping projects. I am also an artist, educator, and cultural worker. I use mapping as a tool for describing local history, cultural and political influences, and demographic change in communities. I've produced maps as a member of the Anti-Eviction Mapping Project for nonprofits, research projects, and exhibitions. Some of my recent projects include the Dislocation Black Exodus zine, the We Out Here exhibition, and the 415 Public Gallery exhibition. In describing Southeast San Francisco, Gray Brecken says, quote, "I call that part of the city San Francisco incognito," unquote. This quote speaks to the political and cultural force of hegemonic whiteness that the rest of the city operates under. It implies a deep lack of understanding of Southeast San Francisco. The same perspective is reflected in the city's resource distribution, including transportation, education, and social services. After meeting through building the art house, we formed our 3-artist team in 2017. In talking together and sharing our past cultural work, we arrived at a common goal. We want to document a landscape unique to our working class neighborhoods. We want the map to acknowledge what exists but is not represented elsewhere. A diverse collection of neighborhoods united by residents with shared cultural values. We are interested in working on a community-generated definition of culture through mapping with our neighbors, residents in our home base of the Southeast. We chose to make a digital map with a handmade quality so that we can update it, include participant additions, and print the map to share it widely. We decided to represent the culture of Southeast San Francisco as a thematic interactive map. This serves as an antidote or response to the fact that many San Francisco maps, although usually tourist maps, do not include this part of the city at all. Because the map follows 2 other projects that investigates the same question of whether we can build a collective cultural life in Southeast San Francisco, we carried forward 2 elements of those projects. Names of artists that participated in building the art house appear on the light green band that is bordering the map.
We each contributed ideas for sites. Our proposed lists of sites were based on conversations with neighbors and coworkers. As native San Franciscans from 2 different generations, we've experienced the city in some of the same ways and also in distinctly different ways. Our lists of sites were based on the personal experience of our generational time in San Francisco and on our work in the Southeast. On Oscar's and my list were the Chinese family shrimp businesses active in the Bayview until the 1930s. Sofia proposed the Bayview's vibrant Guerrero Gallery. Oscar was adamant that athletic fields be included in the map as sites where working class families gather and generate a cultural identity. While most sites are contemporary, we included the 1966 Hunters Point uprising and other sites that are important to the region's historical memory. 16-year-old Matthew Johnson was shot in Bayview, Hunters Point by police in 1966. His death led to the three-day Hunters Point uprising. And in retaliation, the first city imposed curfews in San Francisco's history. In response to the Black Lives Matter protests of the past weeks, we experienced curfews for the first time since. By adding the site of the Hunters Point uprising, we recall a San Francisco that had a significantly higher Black population. More recent history is represented by short-lived but meaningful sites: the Little City Urban Farm, Mama Art Cafe, and 94124 Gallery. They are shown with their dates of operation. No longer in existence, their influence is still felt in the region.
We created digital images of natural life, artists, performers, gardeners, green space creators, and athletes. We included Chinese calligraphy and drawings by youth. We actively invited contributions. To actively invite contributions, we inserted add your own in colored ovals, add your name here in the artist border, and email us your ideas. The cultural map of Southeast San Francisco is intended for residents and is not designed to draw outsiders to our region. We produced the map in two formats: a large gathering map printed on canvas, which we take to public events. Participants can physically contribute ideas with Post-its. A smaller map version, printed version of the map is currently in its third edition and is updated and distributed at no cost. The third option is a PDF emailed upon request.
Reaching as many people as possible to engage in the idea of a shared cultural life requires active outreach. It also requires offering the invitation to participate in different ways. To aid in our outreach, we drew individual neighborhood maps and hosted workshops at public libraries where people could build three-dimensional maps that invited dreams of the future. Participants have contributed in the three languages most spoken in the Southeast: Chinese, Spanish, and English. Some contributions are personal, quote, "I've lived here for 71 years, unquote. Others are political, referring to a bank in the Bayview, a historically Black neighborhood. One read, quote, $2 million Black here, unquote. Others are cultural, quote, undisclosed location, unquote, the site of a basement cabaret.
We will continue our work on the cultural map of Southeast San Francisco and collaboratively generate more opportunities for cultural production in our region. We commit to continued radical outreach. We're working on a new design for the fourth edition of the printed map. A two-sided version with details of densely noted sections is planned. During these COVID times, as we work on the fourth edition, we continue distribution of the printed map to organizations. For instance, the Southeast San Francisco Medical Center recently requested copies for all of their examining rooms. The map is also distributed by Chispa, a portable cultural hub and portfolio of Southeast San Francisco artists, which is Oscar's and my fourth project to address our ongoing question. During these COVID times, we are concentrating on the acquisition side of Chispa, actively commissioning new works from artists to add to the portfolio for future distribution. Excuse me. In conclusion, residents are pleasantly surprised by the map. They're proud of their neighborhoods, relieved and excited to see themselves represented in a dedicated map. Through our project, residents articulate their own sense of place and pride. They express the cultural meanings of sites on the map and those they add. The cultural map of Southeast San Francisco is an effective tool for engaging folks in the question that we pose. Residents are enthusiastic about the possibility of working together to build a collective cultural life. They're curious about the original site selection as well as others' additions to the map. They demonstrate both neighborhood and regional pride. Their participation in identifying sites of culture has been a powerful step in a long process, and mapping is just one of the tools that we need. In order to build and reveal the unique cultural life of Southeast San Francisco, we need to continue to commission new work, create arts education, public art projects, and cultural events. Thank you.
Wow, fantastic. Wonderful, I have no words.
Oh.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Indeed, actually, you are teaching us developing communities. Immediately, I turned the word to Carolina La Terza. Tell us about our São Paulo.
I'm gonna start sharing my screen.
Nice, good.
Hi, everybody. First of all, thanks for the invitation to participate here and to present our work. Sofia, Oscar, and Kate, it was an amazing presentation. I think mine it's not that cool, but it's amazing to get to know I've only heard that San Francisco is a very culturally rich city, culturally rich city, sorry. So it's really nice to get to see how people engage and to build this cultural life. So thank you for your presentation. I'm speaking on behalf of Rede Nossa São Paulo. We can translate it as our São Paulo network. It's a non-profit organization. It exists since 2007. And it started as a group of a group of organizations concerned about the quality of life in São Paulo city. So I think it was like something about 200 organizations. They were themed, divided, and also a lot of them worked at some specific sites and specific neighborhoods. And so we have this huge potential. We had this huge potential of people from all places inside São Paulo. And the Inequality Map started out 5 years after the foundation of the organization as a way to show, to draw attention to inequalities. So this is the focus, of my presentation here, is how to use maps as tools to highlight and draw attentions to inequalities inside the city of São Paulo. It started here. So for those who doesn't know, Brazil is a very, if you look at the numbers, at the average numbers of Brazil, they're always average, I mean. But also Brazil is a very unequal country. So we have a lot of inequalities inside the country and also inside the cities. So I can say the same about São Paulo. If you look at the numbers, at the average numbers, they're always good. And São Paulo is always, or most of the time, attending to some international parameters. So, but when you do a zoom in the territory, we can see that the distribution of resources and the distribution of money and cultural access and health access and housing access is really poorly distributed. So we started out making these inequality maps. I'm gonna start talking about the methodology. So I could only manage to translate part of the presentation. So when it's in Portuguese, I'll try to translate it in my speech. So the Inequality Map is launched yearly since 2012. We bring data about the 96 districts of the city using public and official data. So we only collect data produced by the São Paulo City Hall. Last year, this is from the 2019 edition, we addressed 53 indicators, but sometimes we do like between 40 and 55 indicators in many themes. And the main goal is to contribute to development of public policies aimed at reducing inequalities. This is I'm gonna talk about this later, but this is our core with this product, and extend knowledge about the city territories. So as I said before, since Rede Nossa São Paulo is built by a lot of local organizations, the idea is to give them knowledge also about their own territories. So yearly, our methodology is first we identified how are the indicators we're gonna bring on the map. Then we collect data to build this information. We collect it on official websites, on public studies, or via access to information law. It's a very important law we have here in Brazil, where the government is obliged to provide data and information about its policies. Then with the data, we systematize and calculate, and I'm going to show you what exactly, because some of the variables we have to calculate by population or by some population cuts, by area, by total occurrences, so we can compare them eventually with global results or with national numbers. We bring some analysis of the data to produce our communication pieces. So we have a press team, and they write a lot of pieces, and we have contact with a lot of media. So TV, papers, magazines, and they can use our data to produce local pieces. And the most important, we have a lot of contact with local media content producers. So they can also look at our general data and produce their own pieces, talking about, telling their stories, also talking about their own territories. So last year we worked with 10 themes. Population, which is more general, to bring some profile of the population. Environment, street safety, human rights, housing, public health system, education, culture, sports, and work and income. I'm not gonna present to you all of them, sure. I'm just gonna give you a few examples of how we work. So this is our main, this is the most important part of our job. So we have this map these are the 96 districts of São Paulo. We usually bring the best and the worst numbers. In this case, I'm only showing you population demographic information, so we're not judging if it's good or bad. But this is the distribution of Black population in São Paulo. So we have Jardim Ângela, which has the most percentage of Black population in between its whole population. 60% of the population there is Black, and the other point, on the other side, sorry, we have the Moema district here, where only 5% or almost 6% of the population is Black. We show also the average of the city, so people can compare if their districts are better or worse than the average of the city. And we also present the desigualtômetro. I don't think there's an official translation to that. It's the inequalityometer, I don't know, which is the relation between the biggest value and the smallest value, or the worst value and the best value. We also present a table with the numbers of all the districts. This is really helpful for local communities when they want to see where they are, or the numbers they have relatively to other districts. So we usually presented from the better value to the worst value. This is about bringing the thing about cartography. It's well, we have 63 indicators, and the distribution of distribution of the numbers is really different between them. So this is from this presenting pregnancy on teenagers. So we can see the central region, which is also the region that concentrates people from highest income, whiter people, people who have more access to healthcare systems and cultural life and jobs and everything. They have the smallest incidence of pregnancy during teenagers. And on the contrary, the peripheries of the city has a bigger concentration. So we have this kind of maps that shows really brightly the difference between central São Paulo and the peripheries of São Paulo. This is another one of this kind. So this is about the concentration or for a formal job, forgot the word, but of jobs, no, not occupied, so vacancies, no. Well, the concentration of jobs. So we have the periphery of São Paulo that has no job offers for its inhabitants, and the central part of São Paulo proportionally has a concentration of job openings. This is the contrary. So we're talking about the emission of pollutant since in São Paulo they're mostly made by automobiles and buses and the transportation systems. They concentrate on the central area of São Paulo, which has the more vehicles running and circulating, and the peripheries has less concentrations of particular material in the air. And some of them can't bring us a really clear segregation. So this kind of a map, it's really interesting. This one is about violence against women. And we can see that it happens in the whole city. And even though it has this inequality, like showed by the desigotometry, so some districts has almost eight times more violence against women than the district that has less cases registered. So this is a really interesting map because it has none of it's not obvious, I would say. It doesn't bring such a boxed idea of center against peripheries. So this is the main idea. This is the most that we bring, most part of what we bring at the inequality map. It's a PDF presentation. It's a real simple presentation with the maps and the tables. And as soon as we release them, it's always followed by an event, so we can discuss the numbers and inequalities in general in São Paulo. So after the inequality map is launched every year, how is it used? So as I said before, our main goal is to help us draw public policies, help us develop policies to diminish these inequalities. But how? So the inequality map is mostly used by the municipality. So I have an example. We also launched the early childhood inequality map, and the municipality used it as a data source to build the municipal plan for the early childhood. This was in 2018, in 2 years. Also, the municipality has its own way. It's a really crazy way to divide the territory. So we have this administrative divisions, which I said, which are the districts, as I showed you. But also the municipality has some other ways to divide the territory for the health secretary and for the education secretary. So this is a way so we can look at the territory in a unified way. So all the secretaries are showing the numbers divided in the same way. Also, the media uses, as I said before, also the inequality map to ease the communication. So this is sometimes it's a really technical information. So as we have the media to build narratives over it, it can reach a broader audience. So we can use a simpler language. We can bring people we can write pieces about some regions, the South region of São Paulo, the North region, or some specific districts on the East region. Carolina,
excuse me, 4 or 5 minutes, okay?
Okay.
For conclusion.
Okay. And also, as I said before, the media has its narrative. So we don't talk about average, let's talk about extremes and the difference. And also, the inequality maps used by the population. So sometimes we present it locally to local collectives and local movements, so we can get to know their territories and demand policies from the city hall, and get to know their territory and compare it to other districts. And also so the population can think about some thematic problems that they have. And also it's a really good database for students. So we can use it for academic activities, research, and I have some architects contacting me very often to choose project locations based on a certain problem. So I just brought a few examples of media coverage. So I'm not gonna translate everything, but talks about the difference that how people live more in some regions and how people live less in others. The difference between half of the neighborhoods of São Paulo registered violence against LGBTQ people in 2018, or how the violence against women raised in the whole city. These are a few presentations we've made it last year and at the beginning of this year. These are for local movements. So this is in South São Paulo in Santo Amaro, and this is for our Butantã network. They also look only for the territory of Butantã. We have a shared methodology of the inequality map. So we launched a few years ago a replication guide. So other organizations can do it their own inequality maps in their cities. As an example, we have the map, the inequality map of Brasília, made by Nossa Brasília network also. Casa Fluminense in Rio de Janeiro is also launching their inequality map in the next few weeks, I guess. And also Oxfam, we're working with them to develop other methodologies to look at inequality on the territory. And also, in this moment, which is a very difficult moment, we're trying to build to public some COVID-19 special editions. So we've made it really fast, and at the beginning of the pandemic, the inequality in the distributions of ICU beds in São Paulo, we had a huge repercussion because at the beginning of the pandemic, we could see that the population in São Paulo wouldn't have access to the same health care possibilities. We can see that the central part of São Paulo concentrates almost all ICU beds in São Paulo. And this is from our partner. We're under the same institute, Rede Nossa São Paulo, and the Sustainable Cities Program. The Sustainable Cities Program look at the territory of Brazil. So we're also launching together this special edition of COVID-19 relating to other risk factors for the population. So housing issues, poverty, the lack of ICU beds, and the access to water, and how it's different between all the regions in Brazil. And we're later gonna launch it for São Paulo. And that's it. Have I made it the 5 minutes? Thank you very much. I left my email here if you wanna contact us. And that's it.
Thank you, Carolina. Amazing data, incredible. Yeah, we had two different ways, examples of ways to use maps, art, like in connection with art and with it, and like a tool. So I'd like open for the audience to make a question. So I have a questions. I will present the questions that people made. But first of all, I would like to share with you one observation of one people that was in the audience. I think is important for us to understand the meaning of everything that is doing here. Lina Moncada said, interesting projects. It's giving me ideas to work with my students. Is this, okay, now go to the questions. I selected some. John Doctor is asking, considering the high cost of housing for the first presenters, Considering the high cost of housing in many parts of San Francisco, is gentrification occurring in Southeast San Francisco? James Ackerman is asking, are the presenters concerned or worried that printed copies of the map might draw tourists to the neighborhoods? Jordana Jean is asking, their work seems to be in conversation with Rebecca Sonnet Infinite Atlas. Could they talk about how the work influenced them for a while, these three?
Okay, thank you so much for all those questions. I'm going to try to answer all three succinctly. So yes, gentrification and the high cost of housing is definitely affecting the Southeast. One thing I would say though is that it's not affecting all four neighborhoods at the same rate. I would say that the Portola district and the Excelsior are seeing bigger waves of gentrification more aggressively, whereas Visitation Valley and Bayview, Hunters Point, not as much, which kind of further is in line with that notion of racialized space. Those are like the two blackest neighborhoods in San Francisco. So that's what I'll say on that. I'm forgetting the middle question, and the third question was Rebecca Solnit. The Rebecca Solnit, we've definitely all read essays and viewed the maps. For those of you who don't know, it's a beautiful atlas of different thematic maps of San Francisco, and then she went on to do 2 more in New Orleans and New York. She's a wonderful journalist. One of my favorite maps from that atlas is Shipyards and Sounds, and it kind of documents some important moments in Black San Francisco history with the migration to the shipyards, as well as some songs that kind of share that experience. And I also would highly recommend the introduction to that atlas. It has been greatly influential. And I'm still not remembering the second question, but perhaps.
The second question?
Yeah.
The second question, James Ackerman asked, are they concerned or worried that printed copies of the map might draw tourists to the neighborhoods?
Yeah, I mean, I would say we're concerned, and you know, how as we stated in the presentation, the map is not created with that intention, but kind of once you put it out there, it goes out of your control a bit. So we're concerned, but also knowing that that's not our intention.